The hall of the Galactic Council was alive with sound. Thousands of voices spoke in different tones, clicks, hisses, and growls. The ceiling stretched high above, glowing with alien lights that shimmered like stars. The floor was made of silver. Stone, polished so well, it reflected the colors of strange creatures sitting in their seats. Representatives from hundreds of species had gathered, their eyes watching the center stage. This was where new worlds came to present themselves. And today, it was the turn of Earth. The great doors opened, slow and heavy. Every sound in the chamber grew softer as the figure entered. It was not an army, not a delegation of 10, not even a group of 3. It was only one man. He walked calmly, his steps steady, his suit black and simple. No armor, no weapons, only a briefcase in his hand. The whispers began at once. "Is this all the humans sent?" A voice hissed from the far row. "Only one," another laughed, its sharp teeth clicking. "They are still young, still weak. They do not understand what power means." Another voice said. Some of the aliens laughed, others shook their heads, but some grew quiet. Watching the man with narrow eyes, the human diplomat reached the center platform. He placed his case beside him and looked around. His face was calm, almost too calm. He did not bow. He did not show fear. He only stood with a straight back. The chamber lights reflected off his pale skin and his dark eyes. The silence after the whispers was heavy, as if the walls themselves waited. The leader of the council, a creature with long silver tendrils and a voice like metal scraping, leaned forward. "So Earth sends one," the leader said. "One human to stand before the Council of Stars." The words were followed by laughter from many. The human did not answer. He only kept watching them. His silence made some feel bold, made others feel uneasy. An insectoid delegate, tall and sharp, stood from its seat. Its mandibles clicked as it spoke. "Humans are nothing but children. They should not sit among us." Another alien, scaled and heavy, struck its claw against the railing. "Why waste our time?" it growled. The human did not blink. He did not move. He stood as if carved from stone. This silence was strange. Many aliens expected him to argue, to defend, to plead for respect. But he did not. He simply watched. One young delegate laughed loud and clear. It pointed at the human and said, "Does he even speak?" The chamber joined in, the noise bouncing across the walls, but the human's lips moved only slightly. He spoke so quietly that most could not hear. "Do not," he whispered. The words were almost lost in the sound, but those closest froze. There was something in his voice, something heavy, something final. It was not a threat shouted in anger. It was not a cry of pride. It was a warning, simple and cold. And though many ignored it, a few felt the air grow sharp. As if the room itself understood, the human's presence was strange. He did not show fear. He did not show anger. He only stood and watched, as if he was waiting. This waiting began to break the confidence of some. Why did he not fight back with words? Why did he not explain himself? Why did he not beg or bow? It was as if he already knew how this would end. The council leader raised one silver tendril. "Enough," the leader said. "If Earth thinks this is diplomacy, they insult us." The voice rang through the chamber. The crowd shouted in agreement, a storm of voices against one man. And still he did not move. His eyes were calm, but behind them something darker rested, something even he had not yet revealed. The elder species in the room began to whisper to one another. The oldest ones, who had seen empires rise and fall, felt unease. There was something familiar about the human silence, something that reminded them of ancient legends. Legends where silence came before storms, legends where a smile came before blood, but they did not speak their fear aloud. The human adjusted his suit jacket with one hand, slow and casual. The movement was small, but it pulled every eye toward him again. He looked up at the thousands of faces. He did not smile. He did not frown. He only spoke 3 words. "You made a mistake," he said. The sound of those words was quiet, but it carried. Every alien in the chamber heard it. And 4. The first time, the laughter stopped. The hall was silent. The air felt heavy. The story of Earth's first meeting with the Galactic Council was no longer one of peace. It was the beginning of something else, something darker. And in that silence, a truth waited to be revealed. The chamber was still heavy with silence. Every alien in the hall stared at the human diplomat, some with confusion, some with anger, some with unease. Those 3 words he had spoken, "You made a mistake," were now echoing in their minds. The calm voice had no fear, no hesitation. It was not the voice of someone weak, and that unsettled them. The council leader shifted in its high chair. Its silver tendrils moved like slow knives in the air. "We do not take kindly to arrogance," the leader said, voice metallic and sharp. The words were met with hisses and growls of agreement from the crowd. The human said nothing. He only stood straight, his eyes still moving across the many. Faces watching him. An insectoid delegate, taller than 3 men and covered in hard black shell, rose from its seat. It pointed one claw at the human. "This creature is not worthy of standing here," it hissed. "Earth has no history, no empire, no glory," it continued. "Why should we respect them?" The insect's mandibles clacked loudly as laughter spread across its row. The sound was like knives scraping together, sharp and cruel. Another alien joined in, a scaled reptilian with golden eyes that burned bright. It struck the railing with its heavy claw. "Humans are a mistake of nature," it roared. "They think themselves important because they left their little planet, but they are still insects crawling in the dark." The chamber filled with mocking sounds, laughter, growls, hisses. The human remained silent. He did not even blink. The silence of the human was strange. Every insult thrown at him, every word designed to break pride, was met with nothing, no defense, no anger, no cry. He only stood as if the storm of voices was meaningless. This silence was louder than words. It unsettled the oldest among them. Even as the younger ones grew bolder, a feathered delegate, with long wings folded tight, leaned forward. Its voice was sharp and high-pitched. "Tell us, human, why should we even hear you?" it demanded. "You come alone, in cloth instead of armor, carrying no weapon. You look like prey, not envoy." The chamber laughed again. But a few noticed that the human's eyes shifted. He looked at the feathered one, and for a moment his gaze was so still that the feathered delegate stepped back without realizing. The laughter died down slowly. Then a new voice spoke, deep and mocking. It came from a massive creature of stone-like skin, its body heavy as mountains. "You stand here because you think we are equals," the stone creature rumbled. "But you are not. Human, you are less. You are nothing. A fragile body hiding in cloth." It leaned closer, its eyes glowing faint blue. "Say something, little man, speak, if you even dare." The human diplomat lifted his chin slightly. He looked around once more, his face still calm. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet, steady. "You do not know what you invite," he said. The words spread through the silence like smoke. But the aliens, blinded by pride, laughed again. Louder than before, a group of guards at the edge of the hall began to move closer. Their weapons glowed faintly with energy. Some delegates shouted for them to test the human, to see if he could stand against true power. The council leader raised one silver tendril, but did not stop them. The human remained still, his hands at his sides, his eyes calm. Every step the guards took brought more tension into the air, and yet he did not move. One insectoid leaned closer to its neighbor, whispering, "Why does he not resist?" Another alien answered with a cruel laugh, "Because he knows he is already defeated." But a third delegate, old and scarred, shook its head slowly. "No," it whispered, Because he knows something we do not. Its words were lost in the noise, but the fear in its voice was real. The guards reached the center, their weapons glowing brighter. The chamber grew loud again, insults flying, mocking laughter echoing. "Earth is weak," they shouted. "Humans are nothing," they cried. But the human diplomat simply adjusted his black suit jacket, brushing off an invisible speck of dust. And then he whispered again, so quiet that only those nearest could hear. "Do not," he said. The guards froze for only a moment. They looked at one another, then at the council leader. The leader's tendrils moved in the air, signaling for them to continue. The crowd cheered, hungry for a show, and the silence of the human became something dangerous, something that wrapped around the hall like a storm waiting to break. The elder aliens began to realize this was not arrogance. This was not pride. This was patience, the kind of patience that came not from weakness, but from certainty. The human stood there like a shadow in the light, and in the hearts of a few who were old enough to know, fear began to take root. The council leader's voice cut through the noise. "If this is humanity's best, then humanity is finished." It said. The words were sharp, cruel, final, and yet the human diplomat did not even flinch. He only let the silence answer for him. And in that silence, the weight of what was coming grew heavier. The council thought they had humiliated a man, but what they had truly done was awaken something they would never forget. The council hall shook with the roar of alien voices. Some shouted for the human to be removed. Others demanded he be punished. The laughter was cruel, the jeers loud. Only a few sat in silence, their ancient eyes watching with unease. They had lived long enough to know that silence from prey sometimes meant danger. The guards stepped forward, 6 in total, each from a different world. Their weapons glowed in strange colors: red fire, blue plasma, green blades that hummed in the air. Their armor was thick and sharp, built for war. Each guard towered over the human, yet he stood as if they were shadows. The whispers grew louder. "End this farce," one delegate hissed. "Show the human his place." Another laughed. The human did not move. His hands remained at his sides, his eyes calm, his face unreadable. The nearest guard pointed a glowing spear at his chest. "You?" "Will bow," the guard growled, its voice deep and rough. The diplomat tilted his head slightly. His voice was quiet, almost soft. "I warned you," he said, but they did not listen. The first strike came fast. A flash of energy from the spear. The sound of impact should have echoed, but it did not. Instead, there was silence. The spear never touched him. The guard stumbled back in confusion, as if something unseen had stopped the blow. The second guard leapt forward, swinging a plasma blade meant to cut through stone. The blade moved with deadly speed, but the human shifted only one step aside. The blade hit the floor, burning into the silver stone. The sound of hissing fire filled the chamber. Gasps rose from a few watching, but most only shouted louder. They thought this was luck, coincidence, weakness disguised as defense. The third guard attacked with claws sharp as razors. The human raised a single hand, and in that instant, the claws stopped inches from his skin. The alien froze, its body trembling, its strength stolen by something unseen. The human's calm. Eyes stared into it. "Do not," he whispered again. The alien collapsed backward, falling onto the floor, gasping for breath. Now the chamber grew restless. The laughter was quieter, replaced by murmurs. Some began to realize something was wrong, but pride is a heavy chain, and the council still believed in their power. The leader raised one tendril and hissed, "Finish him." The fourth and fifth guards attacked together, blades flashing, energy burning. The air cracked with the force of their strikes, but to the eyes of the crowd, it was impossible to follow what happened. The human moved, yes, but he moved like shadow. One instant he was there, the next he was somewhere else. And when the guards struck, Their weapons broke in their hands. The shattered pieces fell to the silver floor with ringing sounds. The two guards fell beside them, motionless, their armor cracked, their bodies limp. Yet no one saw the blow that struck them. It was as if they had been defeated by the air itself. The hall was no longer laughing. The silence now was sharp, cutting deeper than any blade. The last guard, taller than the others, lifted a heavy cannon. Its glow filled the entire hall with light. This weapon was meant to kill ships, not men. The crowd gasped, but no one stopped it. They wanted to see if the human could survive. The guard fired. The explosion of energy roared like thunder. Light swallowed the platform. Smoke filled the chamber. For a moment, the crowd cheered, believing it was over. But when the smoke cleared, the cheering died. The human diplomat was still standing. His suit was untouched, not even a mark. The cannon's heat had scorched the floor, burned the walls, cracked the air itself, but he remained, calm and whole. The last guard dropped its cannon in terror, its eyes wide, its body shaking. The human turned his head slightly. He spoke with the same calm voice. "I told you not to," he said. And then the guard fell. No one saw how, no one saw why. It simply dropped to the ground, lifeless. The sound of its armor crushing echoed in the chamber. The silence that followed was suffocating. Every delegate, every alien, every being in that vast chamber now stared with wide eyes. The laughter was gone, the insults gone. Only fear remained. The human diplomat brushed the sleeve of his black suit as if cleaning dust. He did not look proud. He did not look angry. He only looked calm. Calm. In a way that was more terrifying than rage. The council leader's voice trembled as it spoke. This cannot be. But even the leader, powerful and ancient, could not hide its fear. The truth was clear. What they had attacked was not a man, not simply a diplomat, but something else, something they did not understand. The human lifted his briefcase slowly. He looked around the chamber, his dark eyes cold as space itself. "You invited this," he said, and with those words, the entire Galactic Council felt a truth sink into their hearts. They had not insulted a human. They had awakened something far older, far darker, and now they could not escape what was to come. The chamber was frozen in silence. The body of the last guard still lay smoking on the polished silver floor, its heavy armor cracked, its lifeless eyes staring into nothing. The crowd of alien delegates did not speak. Not one hiss, not one laugh, not one whisper. It was as if the entire hall had been locked in ice. The human diplomat stood alone at the center, calm, steady, untouched. His black suit carried no burn marks, no scars, no dust. He adjusted his sleeve once more. A small movement, but in the silence, that sound felt louder than thunder. Every alien eye followed that motion, as if it held power beyond reason. The council leader's tendrils trembled. It tried to speak, but its metallic voice cracked. "You. What are you?" it demanded. The words carried fear that could not be hidden. For the first time in centuries, the council leader felt weak. The human diplomat slowly lifted his head. His gaze swept across the thousands watching him. And when he finally spoke, his words were heavy with something ancient. "You should not have asked that," he said. A shiver passed through the room. The air itself seemed to grow colder. Delegates shifted in their seats, their bodies reacting even if their minds refused to understand. One elder creature, old beyond measure, leaned forward with wide eyes. It had seen something like this once before, in the ruins of a dead world. Its voice was only a whisper. "No, it cannot be," it said, but deep inside, it already knew the truth. The human diplomat took one step forward. The sound of his shoe against the stone echoed like a drumbeat. That simple sound shook the hall. Every instinct screamed danger. Some delegates gripped the edges of their seats. Others pressed themselves back, Predators who had never feared before now felt terror growing in their throats. They could not explain it. It was not logic. It was not reason. It was something deeper, something primal. Something inside them knew they were looking at the end. The council leader forced its voice louder, desperate to take control. "Do not fear this human," it shouted. "He is one against all. He bleeds." Like any creature. But the words sounded hollow. No one believed them. Even the leader's tendrils betrayed its fear, trembling like grass in the wind. The human set down his briefcase on the floor, slowly, carefully, as if time itself moved. Around him, the sound of the case touching the stone was soft, but in that silence it was deafening. He looked around, his calm gaze cutting through the shadows. "You thought I came to beg," he said. "You thought I came to prove myself." His voice was low, steady, unshaken. "But I came only to warn you." The crowd erupted into whispers. Some demanded he explain, others wanted him removed, but fear spread faster than words. They had seen the guards fall. They had seen weapons fail, and now their pride was beginning to break. The human took another step forward. Delegates flinched, though he had not raised a hand. The air around him felt heavy, pressing. It was as though the chamber itself bent to his presence, like gravity had grown stronger. Some delegates gasped for breath, feeling invisible weight press on their lungs. The oldest among them realized it. This was not simply a man. This was an echo of something far greater. The insectoid delegate that had mocked him earlier tried to rise. It opened its mandibles to speak, but the human turned his eyes toward it. Just a glance, calm and cold. The insect froze in place, its limbs trembling. Its voice broke into silence, and then, before the eyes of the council, its body collapsed onto its seat, still unmoving, as if life itself had been stolen. Gasps spread through the chamber, sharp and terrified. No blow had been struck, no weapon fired. The human had only looked. Panic began to spread. Delegates shifted. Voices cracked. Fear bled into every corner of the hall. "What is he?" One cried. "This is no envoy." Another shouted. The stone-skinned giant that had mocked him slammed its fist against the railing. Desperate to summon courage, "You are no diplomat," it growled, its voice shaking. "You are something else, something cursed." The human tilted his head, and then, in the calmest voice yet, he said, "I am what you call when the universe decides a debt must be paid." The words carried like a storm through the chamber. The crowd grew silent again. Even the bravest could not speak. The elder who had whispered earlier now bowed its head. It knew, it had always known. This was not just a man in a suit. This was death itself, walking in human shape. The human reached down and lifted his briefcase once more. He looked around. The chamber, the silence clung to him like shadow. "I asked for peace," he said. "I asked for respect." He paused, his eyes dark as endless space. "But you chose violence." The weight of his words crushed the air itself. No one laughed now, no one mocked. Every being in the chamber finally understood. Death had woken, and death was standing among them. The chamber was drowning in silence. Every alien delegate sat frozen in their seats, eyes wide, hearts trembling, voices trapped in their throats. The insectoid delegate lay lifeless, its black shell shining under the strange lights. The guards who had attacked now rested broken upon the floor. The air itself felt thick, heavy, poisoned by something unseen, but no one could deny what they had just witnessed. The human diplomat stood calm at the center, his black suit perfect, his pale face without fear. He carried no weapon, he made no move. And yet the strongest warriors had fallen before him. With nothing but silence and presence, he had turned laughter into dread. He had turned mockery into death. The council leader struggled to speak. Its silver tendrils writhed, trembling like dying serpents. This is impossible," it said, its metallic voice breaking. "No mortal being can do this. The words echoed, but they brought no comfort. The crowd knew they were true. This was not mortal. This was something else. From the far corner, an elder rose. It was old, so old that even its species no longer remembered its birth. Its skin was cracked like dry stone, its eyes pale and glowing faintly. When it spoke, its voice shook with age, but also with memory. I have seen this before. The elder whispered. The hall turned toward it, desperate for explanation. What is he? They cried. Tell us. The elder pointed with a trembling hand at the human. He is not envoy. He is not soldier. He is not man. It said, he is the shadow that waits at the end of all life. The words struck like thunder in the silent hall. Some laughed. Nervously, desperate to deny it, others shook their heads in disbelief. But the elder did not stop. I was there, it continued. I was there when the Draxian Empire burned, when their fleets vanished in silence, when their worlds went dark. The chamber stirred, shocked by the name the Draxian Empire had ruled the stars 10,000 years ago, and then, without warning, had fallen to nothing, not by war, not by rebellion, not by plague, but by something unseen, something whispered about in the darkest stories. The elder's eyes locked on to the human. I saw a figure then, it said, a figure in black, calm, patient, silent. It walked across the burning fields, across the ruins of ships, across the dead empires, and every step it took meant another world was finished. Its voice broke into trembling silence. That figure was him. Gasps filled the hall. Delegates recoiled, some covering their faces, others pressing back into their seats. No, it cannot be, one cried. That was legend, another shouted. But even as they spoke, their voices carried no weight, because deep inside, they knew, they felt it. They saw it in his eyes. The human diplomat finally spoke, his voice calm, steady, as if confirming what the elder had said. You call me death, he said. You call me shadow, curse, end. He let the silence stretch before he continued. But I am none of these by choice. I am only what you summon when arrogance blinds you, when cruelty rules you, when you forget the cost of life. The chamber trembled. Delegates looked at one another, fear heavy in their eyes. The stone-skinned giant who had mocked earlier now lowered its head. Even it could not meet the human's gaze. The feathered delegate trembled so badly, its wings rattled against the rail. The reptilian creature hissed low, trying to mask fear, but its golden eyes betrayed terror. The elder spoke again. You fools, it said, voice cracking. You thought him weak because he came alone, because he came unarmed, because he came in cloth. But what you did not see is that he needed nothing. He is his own weapon, his own storm, his own end. It bowed its ancient head. Earth did not send a diplomat. Earth sent a warning. The human looked at the elder. For the first time, there was a flicker of something in his eyes. Not anger, not pride, but recognition. You remember, he said softly. The elder nodded. Slowly, I remember, and I fear, it answered. The chamber shook with the weight of that truth. If an elder of ages feared him, then what hope did the others have? The council leader tried to gather courage. Its tendrils raised high, though. They shook. You think you can frighten us with old stories. It said, you think to control this council with fear. Its voice rang, but hollow. Even its own people did not believe its strength anymore. The human turned his gaze toward it, his calm face unreadable, and then he said, stories. And when I arrive, the leader's voice broke. Delegates gasped. Some tried to rise, to flee, but their legs refused to move. Something heavier than gravity pressed down upon them. The very presence of the human chained them in place. They could not breathe without effort. They could not think without dread. And in that suffocating silence, the truth settled in every heart. This was death, and he had come wearing a suit. The chamber was still drowning in silence. The words of the elder echoed like thunder in the minds of all. "Stories end when I arrive," the human had said, and in that moment, every delegate realized that this was not only a statement, it was a truth. The human diplomat stood at the center, tall and calm. The silver floor reflected his dark shoes. His black suit, his steady presence. He was not armed. He was not armored. And yet the most powerful warriors had fallen at his feet. The most ancient of empires had whispered his name in their final breath. Now the council, proud rulers of stars, found themselves trembling like children. The council leader forced itself to rise. Its tendrils shook, but it lifted them high. "You speak in riddles," it said. "If you are death, then why come here as envoy? Why wear the face of man?" The question was not asked with courage. It was asked with desperation. The hall leaned forward, every being waiting for the answer. The human's gaze swept across the chamber. His voice was calm, steady, patient. "Because Earth is not what you believe," he said. "You see us as children, weak, unshaped, unworthy of this council. You think humanity has only just stepped into the stars, that we are fragile and untested." He paused, letting silence sink like a blade. "But you are wrong." The delegates shifted in their seats. The reptilian leaned forward, its golden eyes flickering with fear. The stone giant gripped its railing tighter, cracks forming under its strength, but none spoke. None dared. The human's voice grew heavier, though still calm. "Humanity was forged in fire," he said. "We learned strength not from comfort, but from suffering. Every age of our history was war, famine, struggle, endless storms against us. We did not grow strong because we were blessed. We grew strong because the universe tried to break us. And it failed." His words fell like weights onto the crowd. Images formed in their minds, worlds burning, cities rising from ashes, men and women, surviving against all odds. The feathered delegate shook its head, whispering to itself. No species could endure so much. But deep inside, it knew the truth. Humanity had. The human took another step forward. The sound of his shoe echoed again, sharp as thunder in the silent hall. "Every empire here was born from victory," he continued. "You were given time, resources, peace, land. You built your greatness on ease, on the backs of others, on stolen worlds." He raised his eyes, dark as space itself. "But humanity had nothing. We built ourselves on pain, and pain made us strong." The delegates began to tremble. Some whispered prayers to gods long forgotten. Others clenched their claws, their mandibles, their fangs, trying to hold on to pride. But the truth was clear. This envoy was not a plea for peace. This was judgment. The elder spoke again, its voice shaking. "He does not lie," it said. "I saw humans fight long before they came to the stars. I saw them tear monsters apart with bare hands. I saw them rebuild cities where none should rise. I saw them bury their dead and walk forward again." The elder bowed its head. "Humanity does not break." The human looked at the elder for a moment. Then he turned his gaze back to the council. "You laughed at Earth," he said. "You mocked us as children, but you never understood." His voice dropped lower, colder. "We are not children. We are survivors, and survivors are the most dangerous of all." A ripple of fear passed through the hall. Some delegates clutched at their throats, as if the air itself had turned heavy. Others could not meet his eyes. It was as if the chamber itself was suffocating under the weight of truth. The human raised one hand slowly, not in threat, but as if to calm. "You think me weapon," he said. "You think me curse, shadow, end. But I am not here to destroy. I am here to warn you." His voice grew colder still. "Humanity does not seek war, but if war is forced upon us, then there will be no survivors." The stone-skinned giant trembled. For the first time in its life, it lowered its head. The reptilian hissed weakly. No longer with arrogance, but with fear, the feathered delegate covered its face with trembling wings. Even the council leader sat frozen, its tendrils limp and lifeless. The human's words cut like a blade. "You think yourselves gods," he said. "You think your power eternal. But empires rise and empires fall. You have seen it. You know it. And still you believe you are different." He paused, and when he spoke again, the words were heavier than death. "You will not fall by war. You will not fall by rebellion. You will fall by arrogance. And when that day comes, it will be me who stands in your hole again." The delegates broke, voices rising. "No," one screamed. "This is madness," another cried. But the noise was hollow, weak, filled with panic instead of strength. The chamber that had once mocked now trembled. The council that had once laughed now feared. The human diplomat lowered his hand. He lifted his briefcase again. His calm eyes swept across the chamber one last time. "This was your chance," he said. "Earth came with peace. Earth came with respect. But you answered with insult, with violence, with arrogance." His voice was colder than the void, and arrogance is always punished. The silence that followed was worse than screams. Every delegate sat frozen, unable to breathe. The weight of his words pressed down upon them, not as threat, but as prophecy. For deep inside, they knew it was true. They had awakened something. They could not kill. They had mocked a man, but found death instead. The hall of the Galactic Council was silent. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of fear. A silence that pressed against every wall, every heart, every breath. The human diplomat stood at the center, his black suit unmarked, his face calm. Around him, the broken bodies of the guards lay scattered. The insectoid delegate slumped lifeless in its seat. The air was heavy. Poisoned by dread, he lifted his briefcase slowly. The sound of its handle clicking into his grip echoed louder than any weapon. Thousands of eyes followed that movement, eyes filled not with anger, not with pride, but with terror. No one dared to speak. No one dared to move. It was as if they all knew one wrong sound would draw his gaze, and none wanted his gaze upon them. The human diplomat turned his eyes upward. He looked at the banners of alien empires hanging above the chamber, symbols of power, of pride, of glory. For centuries, these banners had represented strength, but now they seemed hollow, fragile, empty. The weight of his presence had stripped them of meaning. His voice broke the silence, calm, steady, colder. "Then Void, you had a choice," he said. "Respect or ruin. You chose ruin." The words fell like iron, and no one dared to deny them. The council leader sat frozen in its high seat. Its silver tendrils lay limp, its voice gone. It had mocked, it had commanded, it had ordered his death. Now it sat trembling like prey. The human turned his eyes toward it. For one heartbeat, the leader thought it would die where it sat. But the diplomat only spoke 3 words. "Remember this day?" he said. He took one step toward the great doors. The sound of his shoe striking the silver stone rang like thunder. Every delegate flinched. Predators, rulers, conquerors, all of them flinched. He walked slowly, each step echoing louder than the last. The doors opened before him, heavy, ancient, carved from metal older than memory. The sound of their grinding was drowned by the silence of the chamber. As he walked through, his shadow stretched across the hall, long, endless, dark as night itself. And when he passed beyond the doors, the silence remained. No cheer, no cry, no word, only the memory of what they had seen. A council hall did not breathe until the doors closed. Only then did the whispers begin, soft, broken, terrified whispers. "What is he?" One voice shook. "He is death," another hissed. "No," the elder corrected, its voice heavy. "He is worse, because he wears the face of man." The feathered delegate clutched its wings close. Its voice cracked. "If Earth holds such beings, then we must never cross them. The reptilian hissed low. If Earth holds such beings, then they must be destroyed. Its golden eyes burned with fear disguised as hate. But even it did not believe its own words, because how do you destroy death? The stone giant struck the railing with its fist. The crack in the metal echoed through the chamber. Fear will rule us if we let it, it rumbled. But if we unite, perhaps we can fight. The elder turned its pale eyes toward it. And if you try, then you will burn like the Draxian. Before you, it said, the giant's voice died in its throat. The truth was too heavy. The council leader finally found its voice. Weak, trembling, broken. This day cannot be spoken of. It ordered, if the stars hear of this, our power will vanish. But even as it said the words, it knew the truth. The story would spread. Whispers would carry it. Every world, every empire, every species would hear that the council had mocked Earth, and Earth had sent death. Beyond the doors, the human diplomat walked alone. The great hallways of the council stretched before him. Guards, servants, workers all froze at the sight of him. None dared to move, none dared to breathe. He walked with calm steps, not hurried, not slow, as if the stars themselves moved aside. For him, he reached the landing platform. The void of space stretched wide before him. The stars burned cold and endless. He paused for one moment, looking into the darkness. And in his calm voice he spoke, not to the council, not to the stars, but to himself. They will learn one way or another. And then he stepped into the waiting vessel. The doors closed, the ship lifted, and death left the council. Inside the chamber, silence remained. The delegates sat in fear, some plotting, some trembling, some praying, but all of them knew one truth. They had not insulted a diplomat. They had not mocked a man. They had woken death in a suit, and death never forgets.